I was always a fan of the Addams Family. As a little girl, I remember watching the TV series and the movies with my family. And so recently, as I was thinking about getting rid of an old lamp, I thought, why not make it into something cool? And so here is how I made the Uncle Fester lamp. First of all, I needed to remove the lampshade, so I started by disassembling the switch and cutting the neutral wire. After that, I took apart the base so that I could unscrew the lampshade and pull out the wire attached to the socket. The spool I bought had a stake attached to it, which needed to be removed. Following the removal, I needed means in which to mount the spool onto the lamp, so I aligned the arm with the spool and drilled a couple of holes. I didn't want the wire to be pinched in between the spool and the arm, so I attached some double-sided foam tape onto the holes and gently bent the side of the arm top. Following that, I was able to thread the wire through the arm and screw the arm onto the spool using two 20mm M3 bolts and nuts and join the base back together. In order to assemble the switch, I slid a heat shrink over the neutral wire, soldered the wires together, heated the heat shrink with a lighter, and then joined the switch pieces together. Next, I placed the bulb socket in between the teeth and fixed in place with hot glue. The spool was a little slippery, so I started by covering it with clay and allowed it time to dry completely. This way it was easier to add more clay later. I carried on adding more and more clay wherever it seemed necessary until I was happy with the shape of my festa. For smoothing, I used a cut-up dishwashing sponge. With the rough side, I was able to get an even surface, and the smooth side was very useful for polishing. At first I planned to keep the original teeth, but I didn't really like the look of them after adding clay, so I modelled the teeth as well. For Festa's face, I mixed a spot of red, yellow and black with white acrylic paint. It took about 4 or 5 layers to get an even coverage. Once dried, I painted the eyes white and the inside of the mouth black. For the iris, I cut out the paper circle and traced it onto the eyes. Then I painted the iris brown and black for the pupil. Following that, I added dark brown, white and yellow lines into the iris, not forgetting about the white reflection spots. Next, I outlined the inside of the eyelids and the tear ducts. Festa wouldn't be Festa without black eyes, so I diluted black paint with water and painted large circles around his eyes. Festa means to rot, so it didn't feel right to leave his teeth bright white. A spot of yellow and black paint solved that problem. Because I slightly overdid it with the black paint around his eyes, I decided to tone it down a little. For this I used a cotton wool pad dunked in the water. To add more definition to his face, I used a black eyeshadow for wrinkle lines and smooshed them with my finger. To finish off, I used a tissue to wipe away any leftover eyeshadow. And lastly, I used a hobby and craft sealer to add a shine to his bald head. The whole project took about 20 hours to finish plus some drying time, and I'm very happy with the result. If I was to make him again, the only thing I would do differently are his eyes. I would probably use eyeshadow instead of the black paint. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.